Hi, my dragons. This video is part 1. I don't know how many parts we're going to do today, but whatever. We're going to do ethics today for research methods. So Tuesday we'll be in person. Yay, I can't wait to see you guys. So I'm looking forward to that. So we're going to talk about ethics in research. We're moving into that part. And when it comes to the exam, you will see a question on you'll have to watch a film where there is an ethical issue. And you'll have to discuss that as part of the exam. And I'm going to give you the films for you to watch, okay? Okay, so ethics is a big part of research because in the past, there has been a lot of unethical research. And the biggest one that you want to think of is Hitler. He did research on people without their permission. He did his scientists did terrible research, harmful, caused death. And of course, the first caveat when you talk about doing research is first do no harm from the Hippocratic Oath. And we go above and beyond with our students to make sure that, you don't do any harm. So that's the whole idea behind the consent form. You're going to have to make a consent form for your research. After it was discovered that Hitler had done these terrible research protocols during the trials at Nuremberg, they established the institutional review board. So every university has an institutional review board. You cannot conduct research unless you go through the institutional review board. You guys will have to make a proposal that goes to the IRB, Institutional Review Board, and then you have to wait and get permission from the IRB to proceed with your research. So as you and I get together and we talk about your idea, your research project, ethics will be at the top of the list to make sure that you're not going to cause anybody any harm for your research. Okay, so I'm going to show you some things that might be difficult to watch. Probably put them up there Tuesday so that we can discuss them. I might even show them in class. I don't know. But yeah, so some of the things that we're going to talk about might be kind of hard. We went for a long time without an IRB at Tiffin University because, we evolved too. And, we become pretty strong doing research. And Dr. Hurwitz, myself, and a professor named Scott Distel, the three of us created the IRB. And there's a panel of people who become part of the IRB. And and it's a big deal, actually. So you have professors looking at it, professors from different areas at the university. You have people from outside of the university. You have practitioners on the IRB, and they all going to look at your research and tell you, to change this, change that. That's all they're looking for. They're not going to say, your research is not good or not bad or anything like that. They're just going to say, oh, this might cause some harm, so please change this. So it's nothing to get upset about or anything or nervous about. It's just making sure that, everything is okay at Tiffin University, okay? And everybody has to do that, okay? So that is what we call in-house research. So the research that you're going to do, most of the time people here do it on other students, extra credit points, intro-psych. Here's a questionnaire, fill it out, that sort of thing, okay? Sometimes it's experiential, like some of the ones that I told you about, like the Great Peanut Butter Study and stuff like that. Those are always a lot of fun. And those two especially those need clearance from the IRB. And also if it's something really sensitive, then you need clearance from the IRB. So if you're going to use anyone under the age of 21, so minors, or 18, I'm sorry, 21, I'm thinking of drinking age, but sometimes we've done drinking studies, but we'll talk about that later. So anytime you're going to use a minor, you have to have special permission from the IRB, not only from the IRB, but also from the parents. If you're going to go to a school, the school has to give permission, or a facility like a correctional facility. If you're going to go to the juvenile center, they have to give permission. Any kind of, correctional center at all, prison or whatever, they have to give permission. If you're going to use your coworkers at work, they have to give permission. So, I'll be here to walk you through some of that stuff so that you don't, I know a lot of people get excited, like, I'm going to find out, what the people who are working in mental health feel about something versus the people who don't. And I'm going to use, I don't know, let's say Jobs and Family Services. I'm going to talk to all those employees. Yeah, well, it's going to take you longer to get through the IRB. Not that we haven't done that. We've done some great research. People have gone to different police departments and they've done great research. People have done, kids in high school and kids in grammar school. They have done that. It just takes a longer time to get through the IRB because the IRB automatically flags it as sensitive and they're going to, give it extra eyes. Okay. So not to change your mind if you have your heart set on that. I'm just giving you a heads up that it would take longer. Okay. So that's the IRB. You're going to fill out the forms. First, you're going to send me your idea. I want to do this. Okay. Then you and I are going to talk and we're going to hammer out exactly how you're going to do it. And I'm going to go over which forms you need to fill out, and you're going to write a very robust, full IRB proposal with all the appropriate forms. And then we will submit those and see what's going on. Okay? And I'll give you more of an idea as we approach those deadlines, which, well, actually they're coming pretty quickly. So we will talk about that in person though, okay? So with that is in-house research. Now, there are also research places out there that we call hired hand research. So for instance, I did a lot of stuff as a psychologist where I would testify in court about issue A or issue B that required me to do research, okay? And I would be hired either by the prosecution or the defense. You can be hired by the court itself, and that's probably the best way to do that. In Toledo, we have an organization called Court Diagnostics, and they do diagnostic research for the court to answer a question that the court has, okay? So you can be, that's called hired hand research. And then third-party research is research that's done ethically. So Consumer Reports would be, they have no payment, no money is coming in from the meat industry or the dairy industry or the egg industry or something like that. So like Consumer Reports is just non-partial, and they're evaluating different types of products, and that's what they do. Okay, those are the kind of things. So that would be a third-party research. Okay, so all of those have different requirements for different IRBs, and you have to just know about all those different ones. The first thing we're going to talk about is plagiarism. So plagiarism is like a really big thing. Not only is it a really big thing in school, but it's a big thing out in the real world, because if you start doing research on something in the real world and you don't publish that research, or you don't have it scrutinized or evaluated by different things, that could lead to life and death situations. Okay, so imagine, here's a drug company and they want to have, they want to give out a drug that they call, here's my drug and it's for COVID. Here we go. And they don't publish their findings or review their findings. They're just going to do it, give it out, distribute it. How are you going to know that it really works? No, but number one, how are you going to know that it doesn't harm you more than it would help you? So that's what that process is all about, and that's why we waited so long. I mean, we got that COVID virus going from so many different places. Right off the bat, that was, President Trump called it warp speed. It was completely warp speed, but it was a real big state of emergency because we're in a global pandemic. But it never happens that fast. When you think that, we don't have a vaccine for AIDS. We don't have a vaccine for malaria, which is like the biggest disease ever. We do have one for smallpox, and that progression for smallpox was the same sort of thing. It took us a long time. That was a big pandemic. All the world came together and we got a vaccine and essentially eradicated smallpox. So that's how that works. It has to go through a process, and there are a lot of IRBs, and there are a lot of drug companies all over the world that have to go through their own IRBs before it gets out of their country and then to distribution throughout the world. So it is a process, and a lot of people get frustrated, like, why don't we have a cure for cancer? Well, because research takes a while, okay? What you saw with COVID, don't think that that's the way every single cure is going to be, because research takes a long time. There's a lot of steps in it, and it all has to go through the company IRB. Nobody just publishes research, and nobody just, throws out a vaccine without all the testing it is. And it's not only vaccines, it can be anything. So like if you're working in a prison system and you think, we have these offenders and we want to, let's say you have offenders that come in with a drug problem and you're going to say, well, here's a program that we can use for them and they can do this program while they're incarcerated and see if it works for them when they get out, okay? So those programs have to be evaluated the exact same way before all the prison system does it at whatever location. So that's the same thing. A lot of institutions have IRBs. Big companies have IRBs because they don't want to get sued if they make a product that will harm people, okay? Sometimes you have companies that do things very shady, like the one I like to talk about is Slip and Slide. So none of you should be on Slip and Slide because that is a dangerous product. So Slip and Slide has a very robust documentation of people who are too tall and too heavy, like if you weigh more than 110 pounds, which mostly adults do. And you go on a Slip and Slide and they have people who have had severe spinal injuries. The company that originally made Slip and Slide was sued into oblivion, okay? But another company came and picked up that same product and now they're marketing it. You could go to any, Walmart, Target, whatever, and you could find Slip and Slides. And what happened was they knew it was a dangerous product and people were suffering, but when people came to them with a spinal injury, they would pay them out and then make them sign a gag order so that they wouldn't talk about it, which is very, very dangerous. That's a product that's inherently dangerous and it should never have gotten by the IRB. You'll see on a package, if you want to go to Walmart and you find it, or Target or something, you'll see on the box, there's an itty bitty little print, some warning about, how you shouldn't be doing it if you're over 5 feet tall and weigh more than 110 pounds, okay? Or 112 pounds or whatever it is. But yeah, so that's the kind of thing that the IRB is very helpful in, weeding out. So plagiarism is important because you can't make up data because it could be a life or death situation. For you guys, academic plagiarism, if you're found out to have plagiarism, and there is a process, you can receive an FX for the course, and that X by your name indicates plagiarism for, whatever university you decide to transfer. It's a big glowing X, and they'll see that, and they'll know that you've committed plagiarism. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you know what plagiarism is, and, you don't want to do a project where you don't go through the IRB or something like that. So that's very important. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that you could be charged with fraud. So plagiarism is actually fraud. So it is a chargeable offense, and you don't want to do that. I mean, the FX is bad enough, but to have fraud on top of it, and a legal definition of fraud, that's really bad as well. So your role in doing the researcher is to be completely dispassionate about what you're doing and to make sure that everything is, all your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, and that you're not going to commit any kind of research problem that results in someone getting hurt or harmed, and that includes emotional or physical, of course, kind of harm. Like if you're going to do a taste test, and even if you do get permission from the IRB, you want to make sure that you're not going to have someone that's going to have a completely allergic reaction, so you have to make sure that you tell people things. So those are really important things in terms of research. Your role is to make sure that no harm comes to your subjects, okay? So the IRB, again, is everywhere. Every company should have one. Every institution like corrections, law enforcement, any place that's going to do research, big companies as well. It saves them money down the long term because nobody wants to get sued for something like that. You also have to make sure that the person that is in your study has a consent form, that they freely give consent without coercion. So you can't offer them money or anything like that. And that if they change their mind halfway through the study, that you will discard all their data. You have to give them anonymity. You can't say, this is what so-and-so said. Their responses have to be anonymous, okay? So there are certain safeguards in the consent form that you have to pay attention to and make sure that you're not coercing them. And then also at the end of the study, you have to give them a generalized debriefing about what you're going to do with the data and things like that so that they know. Okay, I'm going to do a part 2 of this ethics lecture, so see you in a minute.